This program is part of my campaign to end the stigma. That is, ending the stigma together around this dialogue, this conversation about mental health, serious mental illness. I believe mental illness, mental health is, it's really a continuum, right? I think we can all relate to trauma in our lives, and it's a conversation that we must have. So I'd encourage you to treat this the way I'm going to treat this. It's a journey, it's a campaign to explore and to learn about how we together can end the stigma. So today, this is the first episode of the show. I'm fired up, I'm excited. Jamie Rosen is here. Jamie, what's going on? How are you, my friend?
I'm very good. Thank you for having me. This is very exciting.
Look at your cup. Let's do cheers. Let's start with cheers. Cheers. This is so fun. First show ever. That's delicious.
All right, we're good.
You know what? You got to get that out. We got to get that first sip out, get it going. So Meister, Seelig Fein. It's the name of the firm, you're a partner in the firm,
yes.
Taking care of the mental health law, right? Who knew? I didn't, honestly, when we first met, inside the last year, we first met, and I didn't even know, I guess it wasn't in my paradigm, mental health law. And when we met through the Health and Business Alliance, and you saw me put together a panel of nonprofit organizations, and you kind of said, hey, you know, I saw what you did there about bringing these nonprofit leaders together to talk about the mental health conversation, and you said to me, would you consider doing it at the Nassau County Bar Association? And before you could finish, I said yes. And it was one of those things, that was so 2024 of me. I always would just say yes. Now I think about it for about 4 or 5 seconds before I say yes or no. But you inspired me to push a little further into this conversation. Honestly, I went out and I had t-shirts made up. I gave you a t-shirt, all of our panelists got a t-shirt. And now there's a show about it.
Yeah.
Now there's mugs. The mug, Ending the Stigma Together, the mug. It's like that movie Spaceballs. It's a little bit like Spaceballs. But thank you for laughing, because that's what this show is supposed to be about. That's why we're hanging out, we're casual, we're relaxed, right? It's very colorful where we are right now.
Beautiful.
You know, right? Not clinical, not anything like that. We're here to end it. We're here to talk about things and really have a dialogue. So I had the opportunity just the other night to see you speak just down the road here, Zucker Hillside Hospital. Talking about topics that are relevant to people who have a loved one who's experienced serious mental illness. And I really just want to dive into, how did you get involved with this work? Why did it even become something to be aware of for you? Yeah.
Well, similar to you, when I was younger and people were asking me, you know, what do you want to be when you grow up? Mental health lawyer wasn't, you know, on my radar. Yeah. I knew I wanted to be a lawyer. But I had no clue what type. And so when I was at the University of Maryland, my undergraduate degree was in psychology.
Okay.
And I wasn't quite ready to give up on my goal of being a lawyer, even though I did love the psychology classes I was taking. And so when I went to law school, I went to Hofstra here on Long Island, and I was concentrating in child and family advocacy. I knew I wanted to be on what I call the human side of lawyering. I was going to law school to work with people, help them solve their problems, and be an advocate for them. That I always knew from the beginning.
Why was that important? Let me stop you there, because like, it's interesting. You know, some people want to go to law school because they want to do big like mergers and acquisitions, or they want to work in the corner office at a white shoe firm or something like that. But I have other friends like you who are concerned about social justice, who are concerned about people. Yeah. What was that, the background in psychology? Was it something you grew up with? Why did you have such a focus on people?
Yeah, the idea of, you know, corporate law, business law just was so unappealing to me. You know, pushing papers in that way, it just wasn't what I saw myself doing. That's not my skill set. Sure. My skill set, I'm like an extroverted introvert, I call myself.
I like that.
Because I definitely love people, talking to people, being social, but I also need to recharge my batteries alone. Yes. And much faster than maybe others need to recharge. So that's the introvert side of me. But I just really saw my skill set as someone who understands people, connects with people, and can really make a difference working with others. And so coming out of law school, I got a job at a law firm that had a mental health law practice, and it just opened up my eyes to this world that I didn't know existed. But I got to use all of my skills from my psychology classes and from my family law classes to help people through a different type of crisis. And that's really what I do. So just to, so your audience understands, what is a mental health lawyer?
Please.
What do I do in my day-to-day? Generally, my clients are family members, friends of a loved one who suffers from a serious mental illness and or a substance use disorder or alcohol use disorder. And we're talking about serious mental illness. And they are full-time advocates for that loved one, for that vulnerable individual, in addition to their full-time job and their other family matters and everything else going on in their life. They are consumed by the advocacy that is required when you're fighting for treatment and services of a loved one who suffers from serious mental illness. And they're frustrated, they're exhausted, and they've been doing it alone generally. I mean, a part of what you're talking about today, the stigma, people don't talk to their friends at cocktail parties or out to dinner about their, adult child or their brother or sister who has serious mental illness. It's not a fun topic to talk about. People keep it inside. So what you're doing with this show and all the work that you do and the role that I see myself having as a lawyer in raising awareness and educating people about the system is all with the goal of just continuing the conversation, talking about the issues, raising awareness, trying to reduce some of the fear and the stigma around mental health issues. So when I'm, counseling clients, what type of issues are they managing? Just to give you an idea, we could be talking about a psychiatric hospitalization. So trying to get a loved one who is, acutely ill into a structured, supervised environment of a hospital. Going through the process of how do you get somebody admitted to a hospital, what's happening once they're on a psychiatric unit, how are you advocating for them, what are their rights, what are your rights as a family member, what are your legal options, and how do you plan for their discharge so that when they come out of a hospital and they come out of that structured environment back into the community, how do they stay connected to care? That's the goal. The goal is for them to stay stable in the community, live a better life, a high-functioning life, that they don't end up back in a hospital. So that's one area. Another area that I find when someone is, so chronically ill that it's impairing their functioning, that's when we start talking about longer-term interventions, something like guardianship, where someone might not be able to manage their personal affairs, their financial affairs on their own. They need someone to come in and assist them. So I represent clients in guardianship matters. Mental health issues really bleed into so many areas of the law. I mean, we're dealing with estate planning. Make sure you secure your legacy and plan for your loved one when you're no longer here. Protect assets that they might inherit so that it doesn't jeopardize their benefits, so that someone's managing money for them and it can be used for their benefit. We're talking about, sometimes I'm in family court. If somebody is so ill that they become a threat of violence or they actually commit an act of violence towards someone and you need protection. I've represented clients in getting orders of protection. I've co-counseled on criminal defense matters where someone gets involved in the criminal justice system and now family needs guidance or the defendant needs private counsel to help them navigate. What do I do? Do I stay in the mainstream criminal justice system? Do I divert over to mental health court?
Wow.
I mean,
so much to navigate. So much to navigate. So it brings up, sorry to interrupt you, but it brings up, while you're speaking, I'm thinking of a friend of mine, Jeff McQueen, who will be on the show in the next couple episodes from the Mental Health Association in Nassau County. And, it's a 150 employee organization, nonprofit, supporting people with serious mental illness. And as it relates to the CJ, the criminal justice system there, it's like, what one comment he made to me was, we need to stop punishing people for being sick. Too many folks, and again, I don't know the statistics, and I take certain liberties because I don't have a designation in the stats or things like that, but I know people end up in the criminal justice system as a result of other challenges, you know, that are not necessarily, they're not criminals. They have an illness and that's not being treated or addressed in things, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's a real problem. I think that it's fair to say that, you know, jails and the prisons are probably housing the largest population and providing treatment to the largest population of individuals who suffer from serious mental illness, more so than hospitals and other facilities. And it is a real problem, and it's important that you have the right counsel to guide not only the defendant but the family through their options and you know, how to navigate that system. And that's just one system to navigate. I mean, I could go on and on about all the other ways that families really need somebody to educate them on what are the options, what are the pros and cons of every option. I see that role as a lawyer. Part of my job is to educate my clients and help empower them to make decisions on how to intervene, how to act to protect their loved one. And so to that end, you know, ending the stigma, a lot of it is just about education. Raising awareness. You know, when I'm consulting with a new client and helping them understand, they're helping them understand the clinical system, like the psychiatry of it, and the legal system. They're so closely intertwined, you know, in any of the areas that we talked about. They're so closely intertwined and they're so confusing, and there's so many obstacles to overcome. I mean, the biggest obstacle, you could say, is the stigma and the lack of insight. When it comes to stigma, that's why people avoid seeking help. They're afraid to ask for help.
So when you say that, your clients are typically the family members, or do you also represent an individual who has their own serious mental illness at times, and to get their...
Both.
Okay.
Yeah, both. So
the piece, having been at the meeting where you were talking to this group through NAMI Queens the other night, National Association on Mental Illness, Queens, Nassau chapter, I believe it is, and being in the room, nobody knows why I'm there. I don't know why anybody else is there, right? But as I look around and you see some people interacting and asking questions, and there was a woman in the front row who you sort of built a little bit of rapport with around a certain issue, an acronym, right? And I was just saying, I was thinking about that after I was leaving, I was going home to my wife and my 4 children and all the additional challenges we have, right? And then I thought, if somebody in my life had a serious mental illness on top of that, you know, or similar but different when you have an individual in your family who has different needs or different abilities, and it takes a lot of energy and time and advocacy, and I've been down these roads in different parts of my life, and it becomes much more complicated and makes life more complicated and things like that. And the individual who has either the special needs, the disability, or in this case the mental health issue, didn't ask for this. The family didn't ask for it, but it's part of our life, and we need. I remember leaving the other night where you said, as it relates to the social worker, if your family member or loved one is in a facility right now, you make best of friends with the social worker. I think I'll quote you, and I think you said, "Kill them with kindness," is I think what you said. But that to me is relationships, right? And you, as the attorney, are part of that advocacy team, part of looking out, right?
Yeah. It's really important that, you know, and I recognize that there's a role for a lawyer in these cases, but sometimes I can't do what I need to do without my team of people around me.
Right.
And that team generally would consist of some type of clinician. So whether it's, you know, a doctor or a social worker or other mental health professional or a case manager, you know, I'm constantly looking for people and meeting amazing people, some through you, who I can pull in as a resource for a client. And sometimes the best work that I'm able to do is as part of a team. And I recognize that. Here's where I fit in as the lawyer, but I'm able to say to the client, it would really benefit you and our advocacy and the work that we need to do if we brought in this other person. And being able to recognize that, you know, I can wear a lot of hats, but I also know my limits and where I need someone else. And I see the family member as a part of that team. And when I talk about advocating, like the social worker, when you're advocating in the context of a hospitalization and who's part of your team, social worker has to be a part of your team, doctor has to be a part of your team, and so does your loved one. who is suffering. You know, like you said, they didn't ask for this.
No.
Gaining that insight is it's so challenging for them. That piece is a major obstacle.
What do you mean by that insight?
So for the individual who suffers from a mental illness, for them to be able to say, I know I have this illness, I know I'm suffering from this issue, and that I need help, and I'm willing to ask for help and accept help, that's huge.
Right.
Not many people have that insight, or it comes and goes, and it depends when they're maybe in treatment and connected to care, seeing a therapist, you know, seeing a doctor, in a program, whatever it might be, whatever services they have to provide them with the support they need to thrive, they might have that insight. Maybe they're on their medication, and that's what really helps them understand, you know, this is what it's like when I'm not on my medication. It's a much better life for me when I'm in treatment and connected.
So that insight to be able to notice the difference and notice that this is something I'm experiencing, and by addressing it, whether it be talk treatment, you know, cognitive behavioral therapy, medication, whatever that it is, that once engaged in that treatment plan, things are better. But not everybody can even get to that point. That's even tougher.
Right. And your options when somebody doesn't have insight and doesn't want to accept help and is in denial, or is maybe blaming other people for problems, the involuntary options for connecting someone to treatment are very limited. I mean, you're really just talking about a hospitalization. And, you know, like we were talking about on Wednesday night at the NAMI event, to get somebody into a hospital and admitted, they have to meet certain legal criteria.
Right.
That's where, you know, the law comes in. And New York, you know, specifically has pretty strict mental hygiene laws about who can be kept in a hospital for psychiatric treatment and who can't. And that's, you know, for the protection of the patients.
Sure.
We don't just, you know, hospitalize someone because there's an allegation that they have a mental illness. They have to meet certain criteria to be kept, and they're kept there against their will.
Yeah, well, and I think that's, you talk about ending the stigma, I think that's like the scary part, just to call it something, but that fearfulness of being, you know, now I'm put away or put into an institution or something like that. And you're saying that people have to have certain parameters or hit certain indicators for that to even be a situation.
Yeah.
Which is limiting, though, it sounds like, too, for the family members, right? For people who do need help.
And that's why the advocacy is so important. They have to understand, you know, what are my options to get my loved one treatment? You know, what are my chances of success in getting them the type of treatment they might need? And the options are limited sometimes. And so we do have to do a little bit of creative problem solving. And sometimes that's where the team of professionals comes in, and we have to figure out, okay, if we can't get somebody who really needs, you know, to be in a hospital setting, if we can't get them there, what are our other options?
So it sounds like, though, you know, the team environment is everybody wants to support this individual. Nobody wants to push the person away. What they want to do is get this individual the treatment they need, right? Yeah. You know, the thing that stands out for me is life is so challenging generally, straight up, playing this game. You know, just playing this game, life called life. It's difficult. I mentioned before, raising 4 children, and, you know, and having a business and being involved in so many things personally, things can be stressful. And I try to normalize this conversation around it. Now we're talking pretty much so far about serious mental illness, but I believe, as I said, it's a continuum, or it's a spectrum of mental health challenges. You know, I use those word challenges. Again, I don't have the clinical background, but I have 47 years of knowing people, and I see it in my experience and my own personal journey in life. So I think we need to realize that, in my opinion, trauma is real. It's relative, in my opinion. You know, I interviewed a gentleman on my show Philanthropy in Focus who is a veteran who's in combat and has serious PTSD, and he shared with me, and I almost started crying on the show. I hope I don't do it now, but I think I did cry that day on my show, because he tried to explain to me, like, Tommy, your trauma, don't belittle or knock down your trauma because I was in a combat zone and experienced this. He said, what you've gone through is real for you, and it's, so trauma is trauma, and we all live through that and are working through that. And that's why, like, if we can find more love and compassion for each other and realize, you know, there's this quote by Robin Williams, everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Be kind always. And if we
True.
could do that, man, if we could do more of that, I just think it'd be better. Maybe I'm utopian and I'm like a short-haired hippie or something like that, but I just think if we could find that love more, you know?
Well, the positive side of this is, you know, to the end of raising awareness, you can't turn on the TV or open the newspaper without seeing something about mental health.
Right.
People are having the conversation.
I love that. I know, I'm so happy about it.
It's everywhere.
I know, it's great.
You know, it really is a hot topic. We saw it at the
I got to
Olympics.
hurry up and get rid of some of these mugs, man, because we might end the whole stigma and it might be over.
Right, so easy. I mean, we saw it with the Olympics.
Yes,
in
Simone
summer.
Biles, right?
I mean, it
Was that
was
Simone
like
Biles?
front and center.
Yeah.
Simone Biles
Yeah.
coming forward with
Yeah.
everything that she went through.
Yeah.
And a bunch of athletes really opening up about, you know, seeing therapists, taking medication. I mean, just like
Normalizing
starting
it.
the
That's what it is,
conversation,
man.
Normalizing.
100%. Like, I almost feel like every time I tell people I see a therapist twice a week, I feel like people are like, all right, we get it. Why do you keep telling us your business?
Yeah, like, stop
But
bragging.
Right, but I know, right? You were able to get 2 meetings? I couldn't get 2 meetings. How'd you pull that off? Well, I got connections. I'm Tommy D. No, but I don't want it to be like, it's not a cry for attention. It really is for me to say, I do really cool stuff in the world, and I see my therapist twice a week, right?
Yeah.
And I got ADHD. And I feel like dropping that for everybody to see goes, oh, I can say that I experience depression, or even I could say that I have BPD, or, you know, like, why shouldn't I? We should, because that's part of your situation, and that's it. And the more open we can be about it, you know, and that's how we win. That's how we win as a society. When it's just like everybody is who they are, and we work together.
Yeah.
That's that.
I agree. I mean, you see it at so many different levels. Like you said, it's a continuum. You see it where like top executives have a coach.
Yes.
That's a type of,
Sure.
you know, self-care.
Yeah.
Taking care of yourself, checking in with yourself. I mean, that's really important. Having access to those resources, having a therapist.
Yeah.
It's not something to be ashamed about.
It's great, because this guy's got to listen to me talk.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
And gives me great feedback, and we have a cool relationship. But like, I don't have to feel bad that he's got to deal with my stuff. You know, he got a copay out of the deal. It worked out. I'm only serious.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's that sort of thing that why is there, and in certain communities, in certain populations, there's even a bigger stigma. And that's what we're going to explore on this program, and all the stuff we're going to do here is like, kind of like, I'm interested, like why, but I'm less interested in why as I am in, let's just fix this thing.
Yeah.
You know, so, but I do feel like the more, as I have people who are from the clinical side, or I have people who are, as you say, coaches, and people who are, you know, meditation specialists and certain things like that, like, we're going to see this through many, many different lenses.
Yeah, and everyone kind of plays their role. A lot of it comes down to education.
Yes.
You know, there's a lot of misinformation out there. If I can even just help a client better understand the system a little bit, make it seem a little bit less scary and overwhelming, make them really understand that you don't have to go through this alone.
Right.
There are so many resources out there, so many people who can help you navigate through the system, answer your questions, help you, you know, be a better advocate for your loved one. It's scary when you have to do all that alone.
100%. And again, like I said before, all the stuff people are dealing with already, and then now they have to go out and do all, not have to, but again, it is. It's like, the thing you just said, there's so many resources. Why don't we share a couple of resources that you feel are helpful for people?
I mean, so obviously I've recently partnered with NAMI.
Yes.
They have endless resources for family members, whether it's, you know, support groups or resources to help advocate. There's so many nonprofits on Long Island,
Yes.
most of which you know better than I do.
Listen, I know a few. See, it's funny. Everybody thinks I know everybody.
Yeah,
And I
well,
think
you do.
everybody knows me. I don't know everybody, you know.
Yeah.
But I think there are so many organizations, you know, Options for Community Living, as we talked about, EAC Network, Family Children's Association, many of which are scheduled to be guests on this program here, which is exciting. So there's definitely those types of resources. But even from the perspective of like, I'm an advocate now. Where do I go?
Yeah. I mean, it all starts like when I'm working with clients and I'm helping them advocate. A lot of what I'm doing is helping educate them. I'm helping, you know, really empower them so that they have a little bit more confidence when they're going into a hospital to have a family meeting with
Right.
their loved one and the treatment team, and they know what questions to ask. And I'm really trying to help people better understand their role, because part of what what I said earlier in terms of understanding the individual's rights, understanding the family's rights. Family's rights are pretty limited.
Yeah.
When you're talking about a serious mental illness, an adult who suffers from serious mental illness, they have a lot of rights. Family has not so
Yeah,
much.
I learned that from you. And that's scary as a family member because you want to be there to support and help, but it seems like the scales are tipped in a difficult
I
direction.
mean, something as simple as, what we talked about, confidentiality of their records
Yeah.
and the ability to talk to their doctors. They
Right.
hold the power to give you that consent or not.
Right. And how did that legislation work where somebody who has a serious mental illness is going to be able to say, here's how it's going to go? I mean, I get it from a privacy and HIPAA and things like that, but on the other side of it, I don't get it because it's like this person has challenges. How are they going to be able to make that judgment? We're almost out of time, and I can't believe it, but we talked about that before. So here's what, through your lens, I've heard you say education a lot, but through your lens, if I had to put you on the spot, and I'm going to, ending the stigma together. How do we end the stigma?
Yeah. That is such a good question. I mean, if I can just play even the smallest role working with individual clients, like that's what I say to clients is, when you work with me, I hope that we can achieve a better outcome than the way you did it last time.
Right.
My clients come to me, my loved one has been hospitalized so many times, and I'm like, we're gonna do it better this time.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a better outcome this time. And everything that I'm doing with them, educating them, helping empower them, helping them navigate the system, being their advocate, being like, the little voice in their ear every time that they're, advocating for their loved one, knowing that I'm on their side, that they're not alone, it makes a big difference, that they feel like this is not a secret, this is something that I'm doing for my family member because I love them and I care about them. If everybody can feel that way, feel empowered about understanding and navigating the system, we're making progress.
I love that. It's so important. Like, I trust you, you know what you're doing, and I feel the love and compassion, though, as you would be speaking to a family, and that's the game changer. You probably don't even know this, but you've pushed me a little bit further in what I'm doing in the world, just simply as asking me to do that panel at the Nassau County Bar Association that day. Yeah. I said, let's make shirts. I came up with all these ideas, and it all came out of that. So I'm grateful for knowing you. How do people get in touch with you if they need to?
Yeah, call me.
Okay.
You want me to get my phone number?
Sure, I guess so, sure.
646-539-3705. That's my direct dial at the law firm. My email, JR, my initials, JR@MSF, as in Meister Seelig Fein -law.com. You can go on our website, meisterseelig.com, read all about me.
I love it.
Yeah, please contact me. Feel free to ask any questions. See if I can help you. I'd be happy to talk.
Thank you. What a great resource you are. I'm so glad you're my friend. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. I'm very fortunate. I feel like the little boy who got everything he ever wanted and a pink jacket too. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Let me say goodbye to everybody. All right, folks, listen, this has been the first episode ever of Ending the Stigma Together. It is a mission, it is a campaign, it is a journey we are on together. We're going to make the world a better place through compassion and love. Check out endingthestigma.us to find out a little bit more. And this is, again, another In Focus production. Make it a great day. See you later. Bye.